For instance, Phase 2 explained how one particular move took the Bronx by storm in the early 1970s, and is still being utilized by breakers until today. DJs like John Brown would shout out over a James Brown song, "It's turnout time at the PT, turnout time at the PT." That scene definitely set the stage for what became the B-boy. Plaza Tunnel was where this one cat named Walter introduced the drop, a move b-boys are still doing to. As the name implies, the drop, also referred to as a pin drop, was a way to transition to the floor. A dancer would place their foot behind the opposite knee and squat down until the ball of their connected foot touched the ground. In this cross-legged, crouched position, dancers would push up off their feet and spin into an upright position. In their seminal book Jazz Dance, Marshall and Gene Stearns labeled this move a knee drop and explained how African American dancers adopted it from Russian folk performers in the 1930s. Similarly, veteran jazz dancer Charles Honey Coles associated breaking in the 1980s with Cossack dancers of the early 20th century and wondered how, in the absence of vaudeville and the axe, just where the current breakdancers discovered all those steps. Although it is likely that the move was influenced by jazz-era dancers, what is important to note here is that the drop was reconjured by African American youth in the 1970s to go off and break at local parties. Before Kool Herc began throwing his own parties, he was going to venues such as the Plaza Tunnel and seeing young people recombine the drop with other unique movements to funk music, marking the contours of a new dance that would take on greater form and visibility. The pin drop was a particularly important component of the emerging breaking phenomenon as the unexpected nature of the move, with one foot concealed behind the other during the fall, and the rapid, rotating recovery of spinning back upright onto one's feet caught the attention of audiences, leading other dancers to quickly adapt it and embody their own identity through it. For instance, some would emphasize their physical acumen through the move by jumping high in the air before coming down to the floor, while others would execute multiple rotations when spinning back upright from the drop. Other breakers would accentuate the move with a comedic gesture or pop culture reference, such as pulling up their coat collar like Dracula when going down to the floor and pulling their coat back up when spinning upright onto their feet. Through such varying displays, the pin drop quickly became a sensation in the borough and was closely associated with the repertoire of movements signified by the. As such displays went beyond the bounds of audience expectations, young people also developed alternative modes of dance floor interaction. Namely, a tradition of spontaneously challenging and outdoing an opponent, which became known as burning in the Bronx. The competitive interaction identified by dance historian Jackie Malone as central to African American expression re-emerged with this youth-oriented movement, as teenagers would test each other's skills by putting a more creative twist on a popular step, acting out a humiliating insult, or dropping to the floor and coming back up with their hands directly in an opponent's face. These sequences displayed everything from wit and playfulness to aggression and intensity. It all depended on the situation, but the main aim remained exchanging creatively with a competitor on the dance floor. At around this same time, aerosol artists were adorning their nicknames on subway cars by putting outlines over their signatures and filling them in with greater color and design. Such elaborate murals were likewise called burners, and the act of outdoing another artist with them was known as burning. As can be seen, whether in terms of painting on trains or dancing in clubs, the attitude of leaving your mark creatively and making your presence felt was encapsulated in the shared terminology of. Young women were also heavily involved in this burning era of breaking. In fact, many practitioners suggest that it was often specifically the girls who would challenge the guys on the dance floor. Take, for example, this early account from Kool Rock, describing how Kool Herc and he became friends by going to clubs and dancing against girls. So girls during that time used to do what we call burning people up, as they used to call it. The girls are burning people up and Herc used to come find me and say, "Come on Coke, come and dance with her." Herc never seen a girl burn me, so that was another reason how we got so tight. I used to go to a lot of clubs, so Herc used to come get me to dance against the. La Rock is referring here to a time before Herc and he began throwing their own parties, demonstrating how breaking and burning were underground practices among young people in the borough even before the advent of what came to be known as hip-hop. And girls were not merely passive onlookers or partners for guys during such displays. They were active, co-equal participants. As DJ Tyrone the mixologist from the Southeast Bronx attests, there was girls burning guys first, while early MC Kool Kyle from the North Bronx remembers going to parties where we'd grab a bunch of cute girls and we'd do these moves. We'd burn these girls. These are testimonies from different regions of the borough, given independent from one another, corroborating the fact that young women were widely engaged in the competitive acts of burning. Once again, this speaks to the alternative subjectivity being embodied by working-class African Americans during this period. Females figured prominently in the early development of breaking. For now, suffice it to say that the common assumption that breaking was exclusively created as an assertion of male dominance or masculinity is undermined as the above discussion of breaking's beginnings illustrates. A new generation of African American youth came to the fore in the late 1960s and early 1970s, at the same time that the Bronx was undergoing rapid demographic change, to express themselves in assertive and dynamic ways. The weekend parties at the Plaza Tunnel epitomized these changes both culturally and socially. Here was a formerly prestigious establishment for white residents transformed into a nightclub for working-class African American teenagers, where a diverse repertoire of funk, soul, and rock records would be heard on a weekly basis. Innovative forms of expression, ranging from individualized dancing to microphone shoutouts, were also fostered within this underground atmosphere, helping set the stage for hip-hop culture.